Good morning. My name is Alexander Kasterine. I work as Senior Advisor at the International Trade Center, a joint agency of the United Nations and the World Trade Organization based in Geneva, Switzerland. My job is to manage projects in agriculture and biodiversity value chains, and I have particular interest in the role of markets to deliver environmental, climate, and biodiversity benefits in trade. So just firstly, I'd like to thank the Geneva Environment Network for inviting me to make this presentation today. I'm going to talk about organic agriculture, trade and development. So what does organic agriculture mean for developing countries in terms of, firstly, economic benefits, but also in terms of addressing environmental problems? So just a few words about International Trade Center. As I mentioned, it's got a joint mandate of the United Nations and World Trade Organization. We work with the private sector to support private sector development and have a depth of experience working with government, trade and investment support institutions and SME and small and medium enterprises. And a lot of our work is delivered to the agricultural sector. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. So over the last 30 years, we've seen a growth of agri-food value chains. However, there are concerns about the environmental impact associated with these value chains. They have delivered increased productivity, commercialization, which is delivering economic benefits. But some of the external costs are of concern. So external costs of production are of concern. So, for example, the pesticide use, resulting water contamination from pesticides, livestock, and so forth, and soil erosion from overuse and misuse of soils, and deforestation of particular concern as increased land areas resulting from increased demand for agricultural products and resulting loss of biodiversity. One of the responses to this has been for the private sector to develop voluntary sustainability standards. And these are standards which codify good agricultural practice and beyond to convey to the consumer that there are environmental benefits and social benefits associated with production of certain goods. And organic is one of these voluntary sustainability standards. So I'd just like to say a few words about these broadly speaking. VSS, I'll use the acronym, represents now a sort of de facto market access. You cannot get into markets really without demonstrating compliance with one of these standards. Now, on the positive side, VSS does enable farmers to build trust, although some of the standards do lack credibility. Now, we could say the size of the organic market attests to relatively high levels of consumer trust, and it is one of the dominant standards across the landscape of VSS. The associated premium prices incentivize farmers to produce in an environmentally friendly way, and this can lead to improved organization and efficiency at the farm and SME level. However, there are compliance costs, so meeting certification requires financial costs in terms of changing farming and management practices. It's called a knowledge-intensive sector, organics. There are yearly audits. There's adoption of new technologies potentially, and potentially investment in infrastructure. And these compliance costs can act as a barrier to gaining access to these emerging markets, particularly for smallholders and small and medium enterprises. So I think it's worth saying a few words about how organic farming has grown in terms of the land area and number of farms and the market size. So I'm going to draw on figures collected by Feeble in Switzerland and ITC, published in the World of Organic Agriculture. So we can see from this graph from 1999, we had 11 million hectares through to 2016, where we have almost 60 million hectares of certified organic area. The number of organic farmers has also grown globally from a mere 200,000 20 years ago to 2.7 million producers in 2016. Now, where do all these organic farmers reside? 30% of them are to be found in India. The rest in Uganda, Mexico, and Ethiopia, Philippines, Tanzania. These are the principal producers in the developing world. In Europe, Italy has the largest number of organic farmers. And the biggest market, because we're, again, from the developing country perspective, they want to get into these markets. It's the United States with $38 million billion of market in 2016, followed by the EU of around 23 million and the UK 2.4, Switzerland 2.2. These are the main markets. There are 4 principles of organic agriculture as codified by the International Federation of Organic Agriculture Movements. There's a principle of health, that organic agriculture should sustain and enhance the health of soil, plant, animal, human, and planet. There's a principle of ecology that should be based on living ecological systems and cycles. A principle of fairness, that the system should be based on relationships that ensure fairness with regard to the common environment and life opportunities. And finally, a principle of care, that the organic system should be managed in a precautionary and responsible manner to protect the health and well-being of future generations and the environment. And in terms of this is reflected in the codified practices, which have the following set of benefits. So the most obvious one is because agrochemicals can't be used, as there's reduced pesticide exposure, which has benefits for both biodiversity and human health. There's a big emphasis on improving soil health. So and this plays out in climate change benefits, but also reduced erosion. And in terms of the climate change benefits, we see that the management practices of organic agriculture, in particular the use of cover crops, rotations, minimum tillage, this leads to carbon sequestration in the soils. But also there's a reduced agrochemical use, which results in less energy-intensive processes in some of the systems. And studies show that the organic soil matter content is much higher, or is higher in organic systems compared to conventional in a number of cases. And the reduced or the absence of agrochemical use implies that results in improved wildlife habitats, improved biodiversity of flora and fauna around organic farms, and there have been meta studies to show these benefits. So coming finally to the financial side for farmers, and this is a developing country story, we see that smallholders farmers integration into sustainably certified product value chains is found to generate economic benefits. And as I said, it enables farmers to build trust with buyers. However, recent reviews synthesizing the evidence suggest mixed results on the impact of sustainability certification on sales revenue, farmer income, and agricultural wages. So it's a mixed picture. However, we can say by establishing rural producer organizations, farmers can access technical support from NGOs to obtain group certification. So organic allows organized farmers to share the cost of certification. And this essentially reduces the compliance costs and thus increase volumes delivered. So the mention there of accessing technical cooperation is important in developing countries. ITC, along with many other UN agencies and non-governmental organizations, supports farmers and companies around the world in the area of organic agriculture, delivering aid for trade technical assistance to farmers to build knowledge on organics, to build value in accessing markets for SMEs, and to governments to strengthen regulations. And we work with government, private sector, and NGOs locally in this regard. And here's just to give you a snapshot of the type of work we're doing. So the smallholder level, building knowledge, so training on organic practices, strengthening organization, which is very important, and particularly for bargaining power, and preparing producers to receive organic certification. At the SME level, we're focused on adding value through the creation of market intelligence, through preparation for certification, but also extending beyond that to looking at climate mitigation, eco-efficiency, and developing marketing and branding strategies also around sustainable packaging. And then the final leg of this work is to access markets, where we take companies to trade fairs, so strengthening business capacity of cooperatives and companies, and helping them to establish long-term direct contracts with buyers. And above all of this is the government, who have an important role to strengthen the regulations, largely to align with the destination markets. So strengthening government administration and control of organic farming, and implementing certification systems in accordance with the EU and ISO systems, and the US as a major market. So in summary, we can say that organic farming has grown in response to consumer demand. We've seen a large increase in land area, the number of farmers, and the growth of retail markets. We can also say that organic farming delivers tangible environmental benefits, particularly around climate and biodiversity, so in terms of carbon sequestration, improved habitats for flora and fauna, and so forth. We can also say that organic provides opportunities for companies and cooperatives to add value through certifying as environmentally friendly as organic. However, there is mixed evidence regarding to the financial benefits to farmers. There is also a strong role for governments to regulate favorably. So this means in developing countries to regulate so that their farmers can work within a system which is more closely aligned with export markets and reduces transaction costs to enter those markets. And there's also a strong role for agencies within the UN system, within non-governmental organizations at a local level, to support this transition to a greener agriculture. I'll just also add a few references here to these different types of initiatives and support, of which there are many, but this is just a selection ranging from IFARM, European Commission, USDA, the UN system, FEEBLE in Switzerland, and so forth. And references to 3 of the publications that I referred to and drew on for this presentation. So I'll stop there, and just to say thank you very much indeed for your time. A pleasure to interact with you. And thank you also again to the Geneva Environmental Network. Thank you.